Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development, where we share original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We hope you join us often for practitioner-oriented content around all things related to leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations Podcast? Please subscribe, leave a review, comment, share, and consider supporting the podcast on Patreon, even at the producer and sponsorship levels. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Stuart Robles about his new book, The New World of Entrepreneurship, Insider's Guide to Buying and Selling Your Own Business in the Digital Age. Stuart Robles, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Hi, John. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be with you today. I'm super excited to have what I think will be a really interesting, compelling conversation. We're going to be exploring, in part, the topic of your new book, The New World of Entrepreneurship, Insider's Guide to Buying and Selling Your Own Business in the Digital Age. But there's more to it than that. And certainly we're going to talk about entrepreneurial intentions and spirit amidst kind of the broader world of work and complex organizations and kind of your perspectives and philosophies around all of that. As we get started, I wanted to share Stuart's bio with everybody. Stuart Robles is co-author with Rod Robertson of The New World of Entrepreneurship, Insider's Guide to Buying and Selling Your Own Business in the Digital Age. He is a partner at Briggs Capital, a Boston-based mergers and acquisitions firm that serves small to medium-sized businesses. He has done business in over 20 countries and formerly owned a call center in Central America that he helped grow to 950 employees before exiting and moving into worldwide business development. He earned his BBA in marketing and international business at the University of Texas, his MBA at Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile, something like that. My pronunciation is not great. And he is a former instructor for the University of Texas Professional Development Center. Really great background. I'm excited to explore your book and related topics with you today. Anything else you would like to share with listeners by way of your personal context before we dive on in further?
No, John. Well, a lot of the conversation will be the pragmatic world of the entrepreneur, and from our perspective as a firm that assists entrepreneurs in their journeys. But I did have that stint in the call center that you mentioned from my bio, where I had the PhD, MBA, master's degree in the topic of managing people. In 900, we went from 20 employees to 950 in 4 years.
Oh my goodness!
And it was whatever you can imagine happened and could have happened. It happened, and they never lit the call center on fire, thank goodness, But we were close to it at one point, so. There are things where I can relate to that world,
that is insane levels of growth over a 4-year period. That's amazing. And feel free to share anything about what that was like to scale at that kind of a rapid rate. And of course, in your firm, Briggs Capital, you're working with organizations doing mergers and acquisitions. And this is also a big piece of what many are thinking about, many leaders are thinking about in super structured, really complex organizations. And that's how many organizations continue to grow and to stay relevant, is through mergers and acquisitions. And of course, that brings a whole extra level of complexity and challenges in relation to how do you manage the people in the firm when you're bringing in new people, you're bringing in new leadership, you're trying to acclimate, deal with cultural issues, onboarding, all these things, right? So all of that comes into really what leaders are trying to handle when you're in this wild and crazy world of entrepreneurship and in firms doing what they do, and growth and scaling.
Yeah, completely. From the smallest company, to the largest organizations, the issue about making the acquisition, acquiring the firm, merging two firms is always, what are we going to do about the people? And, when the time comes, on the chopping block and everything. And I just feel that as more M&A happens at all levels, everybody from the leadership to the employees, they're getting used to it, and then they are less worried about it. And they're just, okay, it's another transaction that's happening. And the big exodus, the great resignation, the book is for those that are resigning right now, our book, because there's no better time to go and start your business as now. It's just so easy with technology, with the amount of capital that's out there. It's drying up right now is what you see in the headlines. It's not, it's whenever the capital gets so crazy at the VC level, there's always a wave that follows of people that want to get in that boat, and they missed the crypto boat, whoever had a little bit of excess money. So maybe they want to get into, investing into entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial ideas. As people leave on the exodus, they'll be back, the ones, because the failure rates are so high, and they'll be back at the big companies. Most of listeners are big company execs, right? So, they'll be back with the flavor of what it was to be out there. And I think they'll be more ready for whenever there are big changes or needs to, necessities to pivot, and less of that hassle that happens when you have to make big changes in big companies. I don't know. We had that call center experience where, we were just hiring folks, but we were also losing folks at almost the same rate as we were, bringing them in, because the company was not ready. We did not have the perks that our competitors had, and all the stuff you have to give, this type of employee, and the benefits and all the things. And, it was a real challenge just keeping everybody together, to go towards the mission of the company. But as more people more people come back and leave, I think just everybody becomes more mature about it. And I think it's just going to get easier for HR and organizational development challenges. It's just a feeling I get,
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting perspective. And call centers are notoriously high turnover organizations anyways, right? And then you have, like you said, the growth, the scaling issues, just the maturity issues, of a nascent organization trying to grow into itself and understand how to better meet the needs of its people and attracting and retaining good people, right? So all those challenges that you faced in the call center, and as you've really well stated in terms of the great resignation or the great reshuffling, the great awakening, however you want to term it, people have reevaluated and they have determined in mass that they want to try something different, perhaps than what they were doing before, perhaps before the pandemic. And it'll stick for some people, and for a lot of people, they'll play around with entrepreneurial endeavors for a while, or dabble in the gig economy for a while. Many of them will return back to more traditional organizations, but we've been seeing for a long time, the trajectory towards more gig economy, contingent workforce, contract workers, like all of that. I don't think that trend is going to be reversing itself anytime soon. And so it'll be just super interesting to see if this great resignation will continue to kind of speed us into and accelerate us into that shift, or if it will kind of level out and we'll kind of cool our jets a little bit, and things will seem a little bit more normal before they start to shift more. Anyways, who knows, right? Nobody knows the future, but it's going to be super interesting to see how all this plays out. But like you said, right now the time is ripe for people who want to try a new entrepreneurial endeavor, or want to play their hand in the gig economy, and try new things, and try out the flexibility and the autonomy that can come with those types of approaches, but also then understanding and recognizing the amount of work and effort that goes into when you are in charge and trying to make your business be successful.
Yeah. The biggest dream is when you're an employee, you want to be the employer. And then once you become the employer and you have employees, you're like, I don't want to have employees anymore. And that's what people get to realize, because it's more work to be the boss, and that's what sometimes folks don't realize. But one of the things that I think, and you're talking about the gig economy and everything, and everybody, the reason that they are, can you hear me still? Oh, okay. I'm trying to see if my co-author, he says that the whole pandemic really weeded out the hard workers from the ones that just want to do yoga and really not work, and they call it entrepreneurship, some of them, a lot of them, and they're going to get money because they're going to convince somebody about their idea, and it's going to be a lot of wealth, value that's going to not be created or even lost, and that the ones that want to keep working hard have actually become, they've excelled at their company positions, and now they're in better positions today, doing the work of 4 people, and companies have to, really award those types of employees that are really, putting on the company shirt, and get rid of the ones that are just complaining and asking for more vacation. And he says, the U.S., was founded on hardworking people, and people just want to become more European, where they have a nice 2 month and a half of and it is very enviable to have all that vacation time. And I think it's really going to reshuffle folks in that direction. I mean, right now everybody's worried because everybody's resigning and everything, but I think all the gigsters and all that stuff, it's going to level off. All the hype is really driving everybody crazy. I think everybody's worried, chasing our tails. But I think it's going to be great for big companies, especially because they're going to really realize that wherever they had a department with 25 people, it can be run by 5.
Yeah.
And I think I came over here because I was looking for the other book that I didn't write, but my co-author Rod wrote. So this is Rod, but he's if you look for him on Amazon, he co-wrote another book with a guy from Belarus 3 years ago. 2 years ago they published it. It took him about a year to write, and he says that was a real pain to write. It was really tough because the guy wrote in Russian, and then he would translate it into English with a personal assistant, and it was just a mess. But this guy he is the entrepreneur of the year for many years in Belarus. It's funny we're talking about this because not only what happened, right? Belarus is now the one that's supporting the horrible war and everything, but this guy and his world got changed, got completely turned upside down, right? He was the king, but he had a method where and we launched the methodology for organizations like the ones that but it was based on office work and not remote. Because what it does is that as a physicist and a mathematician, everybody's a mathematician in those countries, right? He came up with a formula where he can calculate like gravity and create it's called the vector method, the book. The human vector is the name of the book. The vector method is the methodology for organizations to actually implement what he did, because he at one point, he was running about 10 companies, high growth technology firms without a problem, because he had implemented this method, and it works like gravity. You find the vector of every individual, and you see which ones are the gravitators and the ones that are helping gravitate everybody towards the company goal of making money, of being aligned with management and ownership, and then which are the detractors. And then once you identify both, you work on how to make the detractors or assign. It's an unbelievable cross-sectional way of taking advantage of who you have in the organization, actually making them take a certain role in terms of going towards the company objective in a mathematical precision. It's just amazing. And but that whole thing, got ruined with the because you got to be, it's the people that are at the water cooler, How do you identify those, channel them correctly to, go with company culture, go with the company's objectives. And now that things are going back to the office, I think it could be re-implemented, but it goes right into what we were talking about, where if you identify the right people, you're able to really, make the organization grow. People don't leave. You can have a call center where people don't, resign after, 3 months or 6 months, and go on to the next call center where they get more ping pong table hours, and this happens a lot in offshore locations where, the Philippines and, Latin America. Anyways, the more ping pong tables sometimes you have, it's a lot of young people, the more you are able to steal away agents from the other company, from a competitor. Anyways, I just thought of that because, as we're going back to the office, we'll see who really wants to go back and work,
Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Academy. Courses, micro-credentials, and certificates to upskill and reskill for the future of work. All HCI Academy courses, micro-credentials, and certificates are designed, developed, and delivered by award-winning and internationally renowned scholars, educators, thought leaders, executives, and practitioners. Our courses, micro-credentials, and certificates will help you make your mark on the future of work and make an immediate impact in your organizations. Check out the HCI Academy and our many course offerings and certificates to upskill and reskill for the future of work. Check out our new weekly LinkedIn newsletter, Alchemizing Human Capital, exploring industry trends via original research and interviews with executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We look forward to having you join us. So I'm wondering now if we can pivot just a little bit. Now, of course, there's connections here between everything we've been talking about and your book, but I'm wondering if we can pivot a little bit and talk more about your book, specifically The New World of Entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit more about what this book is all about, and then we can start to dive into some of the key findings, key takeaways.
Okay. Briggs Capital, the firm where we work at, an M&A firm in the lower middle market, usually when we help a company get acquired, it's been run by the same founder for, 30 years. And this person is hitting, 60, 65 and needs to, they've put everything into the business. They don't have anything liquid. It's all inside the business. We got to, they got to exit. They got to cash out and, be able to retire, leave something for their, children, et cetera. And so we're in that world, where it's usually entrepreneur to entrepreneur transactions or private equity, but the smaller ones, not the big private equities that, the people business. So when we set out to write the book, and if you compare it to when I was trying to get into this sector, because I've been an entrepreneur for many years. I've been an employee. I lived in Austin, Texas, because that's where I went to school, and I participated as co-founder, employee of so many startups. It's been in and out, and I try to get into this world of deal making, and I read 50 books, and they all talked always about the big organizations, how you could basically be an analyst or an employee for these types of big shops where you do these transactions. You got to calculate the, all those stuff, that goes into the due diligence and everything. That's not where all the bulk of transactions happen. So the book really is a guide for anybody who has never done a transaction. And it can be a person that's been in business forever or has been an executive at a company forever, and they're so super smart, and they're good at what they do, and they know companies, and they know growth, and they know how to manage, and they know about people, and they know about product, everything, but they've never done these types of deals. We just kind of like give you the recipe, from the first little thing that you got to do to the next one, the things that happen along the way. There's maybe 6 or 7 steps that have to happen for you to actually buy a company or sell your company, and usually folks like us, we hide that information in our, club of financial deal makers And once and that's where you see the difference between somebody who's already done a deal before and somebody who hasn't. And once they've done a deal before, they turn around, right, and they're like, huh, that was a big deal, you know. That was that really nebulous, weird world that I had no idea how these guys did it or these people did it. And then they go on and they do more transactions on their own. So you see these serial entrepreneurs that people talk about. The earlier that they can do a deal, either sell a small business or acquire a franchise, whatever it is, it really gets you into a new level, a new pain, a new I don't know what you want to call it, but it's just a higher level of understanding of the dynamics of deal making, acquisitions, and it just becomes second nature. So we try to get people to read the book, take the plunge, either buy a business or sell theirs. A lot of times we in our line of work, a lot of times we go to a company and we say, you got a nice company, you could sell it and make a lot of money, right? And I'm not going to sell my company. Is the first thing every business owner tells you, right? They get all clammed up and they're like, I'm never going to sell it, I'm going to keep making money. And we're like, you never know what's going to happen, and I got the story of my family's personal story. We had the goose that laid the golden eggs, and it all disappeared during the global financial crisis. We were in banking, and like that, you never know when the world is going to change. So you want to have eggs, your golden eggs, in other baskets, and there's no better way than to actually get into transactions, because then you just become a deal maker. I don't know if that makes sense, but you see it all the time. You just see it with these serial entrepreneurs. If they did one transaction early enough in their life, and early enough could be as late as 50, 55 years old, you see them do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 after that in more rapid sequence as they do another one and another one, and that's what the world needs more of. So there's a lot of those at the top, at those very big deals that happen. They're happening all the time, billions of dollars, but there's very little happening. There's a lot happening at the lower levels, but there's much more that needs to occur to reach the maturity that we talked about at the beginning. Where people know their role as employees or as and they're just more mature about these big changes that happen in organizations as part of transactions or market changes or crises that black swans that happen all of a sudden that are going to start happening more often. We all have to be more prepared and more mature to receive those types of hits. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, no, I think it does. And so what would you say to anyone listening? Like you said, most people listening in my audience are organizational leaders and executives in corporations. There are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and some who are in smaller businesses. But what would you say to anyone listening who might be considering, taking the plunge and getting into this space? How would you convince them to take that leap?
Convincing them is something, if you put the effort into getting into it, you're going to see it's not as nebulous as you thought it was. It's I don't know. It's ridiculous that read my book, but I'm not an author. We didn't do it for to sell millions. I mean, it would be nice, but everybody that's read it and we get the feedback, they laugh. They say that we put like 40 case studies in there of all the bad things that can happen, and we actually have to change the names, because these are things that have happened either to us or to our clients or people we know. And it's just stories of employees stealing money, companies that never paid a single tax, somebody acquired it, did not do the due diligence, and then the IRS is and somebody who bolted off to Panama. We had a guy that bolted off to Ukraine with a bunch of money, and it's all in there. It's the type of stuff your uncle might say at a dinner about his lifelong happenings, but they're in here, and it's funny, it's enjoyable, it's quick to read, but there's a lot of meat in there where you're just gonna have a fun time, and you're gonna be like, okay, I just got the recipe for how to get started. I think I just already have the guide, on the 5, 6 things that I have to do to get ready to either take the plunge and go into business by acquisition, by just launching it, and by reading it, I think somebody in corporate organizational development and whatnot could actually it could be a good starting point to getting, a corporate venture capital fund created at the firm, or a venture arm or something to just give entrepreneurship, give those employees that you feel will eventually leave because they have that bug in them, and give them, stay with us. Here's, a little incubator, here's a little company support that you can have, and go out and make, a spin-off, for the firm, right? That's there's been a lot of success in corporate venture capital, and I think it could be a good primer also for that, because it's just written in a funny way, in a more down-to-earth, pragmatic tone than a lot of these, business entrepreneurship books. And the other ones that you have in the world, out there, are the ones from the hugely successful, folks that created a gazillion-dollar company, and they tell their story, but it's really a lot of just boasting about, their stories are not the ones that most people are going to live. It's just almost nearly impossible statistically to be, a Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, and those are the other books about that, that's nearly impossible to replicate. You just have to be very lucky, very smart, at the right place at the right time, in the right school, to graduate from the right, business school. And those are most of those other books about taking the plunge. It's just about feel good, get in there. This one, talks the good and the bad. I don't know. I hate to ramble about that, but
No, that's fantastic. Well, Stuart, this has just been a really fun conversation. I appreciate you sharing about the book, sharing your insights. I know at the time I'm going to have to let you go here in just a few minutes. But before we wrap up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can get connected with you, find out more about your work, your team, where they can find the book, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Okay. Thank you for the time. I'm on LinkedIn, Stuart Robles. I always, get back at people immediately. And then the website for the firm, briggscapital.com, BRIGGS, capital.com. Stuart Robles, on LinkedIn, and my email address is stuart@briggscapital.com. The book is, we've got a website for the book. It's just the 5 letters for the title, the acronym. This thing does not focus. Did it focus there? So, the New World of Entrepreneurship, tnwoe.com. Okay, tnwoe.com. And I'm the youngest guy at our firm. All of the rest of the partners and the members are over 60. And so I'm actually the youngest, and I'm the one who's always responding to all messages. So anything that, if people reach out, they get an immediate answer. It would be great to connect with anybody. And I'd love to also send them the vector thing if anybody wants to look at that. It's just fascinating, but that was one of those wrong place, wrong time, and it didn't work, but it's still there. The methodology is there, and it's just fascinating. And yeah. I mean, and then that's it. It's a primer, it's a guide, and it won't be like something else you've ever read, because I'm not a book author. It was horribly hard to write it, and I only wrote half of it. It was horrendous. It was so tough, to sit down and actually. So but it's in the end, we sent it to a lot of people, and we've gotten a lot of really good feedback, and I think that's the reason, because I'm not an author. My co-author, he gave it structure. He's a co-author, so it's got both of those things,
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Stuart, it has just been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Stuart and his team can do for you. Check out the book. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership, the journey of becoming a truly remarkable leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There is no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of your problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations podcast? Please subscribe, leave a review, comment, share, and consider supporting the podcast on Patreon, even at the producer and sponsorship levels. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.